high Uranian beings or beautiful soul. Which one do you guys prefer? Or Uranian soul? I don't know, guys. You can comment below and let me know if you would prefer me to change from beautiful souls to Uranian being, because we're all becoming Uranian beings now, right? You know? So yes, today we're going to be talking about human design and how to read the human design body graph, because when I made my last video on the age of Aquarius and becoming a Uranian being, there's been some of you guys out there who have requested me to just talk a little bit about how to read their human design body graph. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. So if you want to get your human design body graph, first of all, you'll have to go to, I think the best website is jovianarchive.com, and I'll provide a link to that below, and you can go there and put in your birth information. And I think that the time that they use is in the 24-hour clock. Okay, so what you're gonna get when you put in your information is a body with different things going on inside it. And actually, the human design is actually, the whole graph is coming from a human design mandala, which I'm not sure where you can get that and if you can actually get that online, or you may need to pay for it. But I want to talk you through the human design mandala first, so that we can get a bit of a basic understanding of what all of the stuff that's going on in human design is coming from. So I may be looking over them from time to time, guys, because I have my computer there and I have the human design mandala there, and I need to point at different things. So if I'm not looking directly at you guys, that's what I'm doing. So human design is a system that is developed by Ra Uru, and I'm not an expert on it, by the way, so I may say things in this video and that you guys may feel like there's more to add if you know a little bit more about human design, so feel free to do that if you think so. So human design is based off of astrology, the I Ching, the Chinese I Ching system, the Kabbalah, quantum physics, the Hindu chakra system, and the genetic codes. So there's a lot of overlapping scientific studies that overlaps with ancient wisdoms in the human design. So I think that's really interesting. So I'll start from the outside of the human design mandala, and we're going to zoom in, right? So with regards to the quantum physics of human design, it is based on the belief that the neutrinos have an impact on us. So neutrinos are subatomic particles that don't have a particular charge, but they're considered to be existing everywhere, more than electrons or protons are. And the interesting thing about neutrinos is that once they travel in time and space, and once they touch certain material objects, they kind of shape shift. So there are different types of neutrinos, and the way that they shape shift, you know, changes according to how far they've traveled or what they've touched, but there's different various combinations that you can have with regards to the shape-shifting neutrinos. And so as I'm sitting here, there's like neutrinos flying through my hand right now, and I'm probably inhaling some of them in. So in human design, it is thought that when you were in your mother's womb, and especially 3 months before your birth, the neutrinos would have affected the way that you are being biologically made. At 3 months before your mother actually gave birth to you, to the moment of your birth, the neutrinos are within your body with regards to the planets in the solar system and its alignment, and how the neutrinos have passed through that into the atmosphere of the Earth, the astrology part of it. So as you can see, the human design mandala, we have this wheel that looks sort of like an astrological natal chart wheel with the different zodiac symbols on the outside of the wheel. All right. Now, with regards to the I Ching is a 5,000 years old Chinese wisdom that, if you can see these little boxes on the outside, these are the I Ching hexagrams, and there's 64 of them. The I Ching hexagram is based on the different cycles of life that we have to go through, and they derive 64 different archetypal wisdom in the cycles of life. And I think it was created by tossing coins. I think they have 6 coins, they toss them, and then you get a different type of, these are hexagrams, so they're different types of hexagrams. It is said to derive from the duality that exists in the universe. These are elements that exist in the universe, such as earth, mountain, water, wind, thunder, fire, lake, and heaven. So they kind of form the building blocks of the cosmos, basically, you know, of civilization, agriculture, marriage, writing. And it's really interesting that with regards to the study of the genetic code, there are also 64 genetic codes in the human DNA and the human bodily makeup. And that somehow is kind of in correspondence with the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. So could it be that scientific studies, the modern day scientific studies, have somewhat proven or corresponded with this ancient Chinese wisdom? And so therefore we see the 64 I Ching hexagrams as well as the different genetic codons there as a wheel as well. And you see how each of the zodiac signs correspond with roughly, you know, 6 or 7 I Ching hexagrams as well as 6 or 7 genetic codons. For example, if you look at Libra here, Libra is partially in correspondence with the I Ching hexagram and the genetic codon numbers in 48, 57, 32, 50. And then we have Scorpio, which is in correspondence with 1, 43, 14, 34, and so on and so forth. Then we go deeper into the body graph, and we have something that looks really strange. So this is based on the Hindu chakra system. Did I talk about this earlier? Yes, there's also the Hindu chakra system, in which there are 7 centers in the chakra system, but in human design there are 9 centers, and I talked about this a little bit in my Uranian being video. But yeah, the Hindu chakra system, there's, you know, the root center, the sacral, the solar plexus, the heart chakra, the throat chakra, the ajna, and the crown chakra. So these are energy centers that come into the body based on the outer, more cosmic way that the universe works, and they're imprinted within our body. And then with regards to the Kabbalah is based on the tree of life, which is actually coming from the flower of life, which is this pattern that is considered to be existing within all living things as well as things in the cosmos. They are existing within the makeup of a lot of the things in the universe and the cosmos. You see the white channels that connects each center together. That is coming from, there's 32 of them, and that is coming from the channels that exist in the Kabbalah's tree of life. Yes, that is basically the fundamental makeup of your human design body graph and the mandala itself. So now when we have a look at your particular human design body graph, now let's go through how to actually read this and what Ra has made of these different ancient wisdoms, and including the quantum physics and the genetic code. So I would recommend, guys, that you click the download button so that you have this graph saved so that you can return back to it anytime you want. And so as I walk you through this, I'll be going through my own body graph because I understand that very well, more than the body graphs of other people out there, and I may link parts of it back to astrology as well, and it would be easier to do that if I used my own. So if you download it, you will get a PDF file in which there are boxes at the top that sort of explains your type and things like that. But then you also have the design key on the left and the personality key on the right. Everything that's going on the body graph and the personality and design key boxes is then kind of translated into what's at the top, in the box at the top up there. Okay, and so the first thing you'll see is that it says type. So my type is a projector, and in human design there are 4 major types. The types represent your aura, so the energy that you give off into the world, and the vibrations that are surrounding you, right? Your aura when you're out there interacting with people. And so in human design, there's the projector, there's the generator type, which is divided into pure generators and manifesting generators. And then there's the manifestor type and the reflector type. And if you guys want, I can make a video going more deeply into each of the types in another video. But we probably can't include it here because it would be way too long. And then next we've got the profiles, and mine says 1-3. So the profile is showing, the numbers on your profile is showing the way that you approach your purpose in life, and how you, the themes that you take when you learn how to use your energy to proceed with your goals and your mission in your life. And there are 6 numbers in the profile, so 1 to 6, and each one has a different name for it. And if you guys want, I could go through the profiles, the different profiles a little bit deeper for you, but that's not for this video. But yes, when you combine them together, you get 12 different profiles. And so the one profile that I've got for myself is 1-3. You know, you may have a profile 6-2, you may have a profile 3-6, 6-3. So it depends on your combination and how you approach your life, how you learn to go through your life path. For example, you know, 1-3, the number 1 represents an investigator type, and number 3 represents the martyr type. So this means that I go through my life as an investigator martyr, meaning that I like to investigate things, like to study and go very deep, and that's how I know what I'm here to do in the world, but as well as what I should be doing with regards to life. I should need to be investigating life, basically. And the 3 is showing a martyr, meaning that I like to try things out, I may get it wrong, I may make mistakes, and I learn from that. And so I can tell people what works in the real world and not works in the real world based on my own experience, because I like to try it out. And so these 2 things combined together is my approach to life and the themes that happen in my life consistently, so that I can learn most of life. When it comes to the definition, it's a split definition. So this means that if you look at the body graph, there are 2 major areas where my energies are being transferred. You see how these 2 channels have a red line that connects them together, but the 2 channels here that are colored in, they don't connect to any other part of my body. But then I have centers in the upper parts of my body that are connected to each other, but they don't connect to the other center. So that means I have 2 major sources of energy that are being transferred and they don't connect, so it becomes a split definition. So you can have a single definition, or you can have a triple split definition, which means you have 3 different energy exchanges going on in your body and they don't connect. So the next part of this is the authority. So the inner authority, mine says emotional solar plexus. This is telling you how you should be making decisions in your life. You need to listen to your authority to be able to make the right, correct decisions for you. Next is your strategy. So my strategy is wait for the invitation. Now the strategy will correspond with your aura type. So as a projector, the strategy is always going to be to wait for the invitation. You know, for the generator, it's going to be wait to respond, and for the manifestor, it's going to be to inform, and the reflector, it's going to be to wait 28 days for the cycles of the moon, something like that. So yeah, the not self theme, mine says bitterness. The not self theme is also related to your aura type. So this means that if I'm not operating at the highest level of being a projector and operating from my inner authority with regards to making decisions based on my emotional solar plexus center, or I'm not listening to my strategy, I will experience bitterness. That is my not self theme. So different types will have different not self themes. So I think the generator is frustration, the manifestor is anger, And then the last thing is the incarnation cross. So the incarnation cross will show your mission in this life. It gives a more direct explanation of what you're really born here to do at the end of the day. Your incarnation, right? Your this life, what is made for you. So mine says the right angle cross of explanation. 2343, 494. So these sequencing of numbers can be in different order. But if you have 23, 43, 494, you will be on the incarnation cross of explanation. But depending on the arrangements of the numbers, the cross of explanation can be different. Like you may have to be operating a little differently from if you had this particular sequence. And there's hundreds of different incarnation crosses out there. So yeah, now I want to go through the body graph and how to actually read that. So we're going to first go through the different centers in the body and what they are. But I probably can't go into too much detail because I don't have a lot of time here. But I'll go through it briefly. So you can see that in your body graph, some centers are going to be white and some centers are going to be colored in. And there are numbers inside each of the centers. And some centers are going to be white with no numbers colored in purple. But some centers can be white with numbers colored in purple. So if the centers are colored in, that means you would have at least one number colored in purple. And so that center in the human design is called a defined center. If your center is white with numbers colored in, but the center itself is not colored, it's white, that would be an undefined center. If the center is white without any numbers being colored in, that is called an open center. Okay, so as you can see, I have 5 centers defined because they're colored in. I have 2 centers open because there's no numbers colored in and they're white. And then I have 2 centers that are undefined. They've got numbers being colored in, but they're not, the center itself is not colored. And so therefore, if your center is defined or it's colored in, it means that you have consistent access and a consistent use of that particular energy in that center. If your center is undefined or open, it means that you don't have a consistent use or access to the energies regarding that center, but you still have that center. You still have that energy, it's just not consistent. So it means that you may absorb the energy of the people around you, and it may change the way that you use that center depending on who you're with in their environment. If you have and if it's colored in, it tends to make you more certain or know how to use that energy in your own particular way. But if it's open, it means that you have more wisdom because you can understand how different people use that energy center because you're constantly absorbing it from the people around you. So it's not really personal to you, but you learn over time how that energy center works with more awareness. So I hope it's making sense so far, guys. So we're going to start with the top. That is the head center in human design. And that center is responsible for inspiration, questioning things in the world and trying to find answers to those questions. So remember, if it's colored in, you constantly have inspiration and you constantly question the world. If it's open or undefined, you are going to be picking up inspiration from the environment and the people that you're in, as well as questions that don't really belong to you, but you pick it up from the environment or the people around you. The next center below that is the Ajna center. And I think I'm going to take a break for a minute because my throat is dry and I need to drink some water. So in human design, the Ajna center is responsible for conceptualization and holding information and processing information. And so if your Ajna center is open or undefined, it could mean that you don't have a consistent way of processing information, which kind of makes you more adaptable to different concepts and different information, and you don't feel that you have to be certain about certain things. But sometimes you may feel pressure to have to make up your mind or to be certain about something, but you're not here to do that. You're here to be kind of more perceptive in that sense. If your Ajna is defined, that means that you have a consistent way of processing information, and you can hold a lot of information in there. And you can also be able to monitor your own mental process as well. The next center down is the throat center, and that is responsible for communication, speaking, but also manifestation, manifesting something into the material world. And so if that's open or undefined, it means that you don't have a consistent way in which to speak. So sometimes you may not speak when you should, or you may be speaking when you shouldn't be speaking. But the wisdom of the throat comes when you learn to work with it, and a lot of great speakers and singers have an open throat. If it's defined, it's colored in, that means that you just have a consistent way of speaking and communicating, and you have a way that you like to, you have a consistent way of manifesting something into the world. The next center down is the identity, or the G center. This is responsible for your identity, knowing who you are and loving yourself. So if this center is open or undefined, it can mean that when you're around different people, you kind of change your personality according to that, and because of that, you have this way where you need to feel loved by people that you come into contact with in order for you to feel good about who you are. If that center is defined, it can mean that you sort of have a more consistent or certain way of knowing who you are and how to give yourself self-love. Not saying that you may be accessing that all the time though. The next center is the heart, or the will center, and that is responsible for willpower. So if that center is open or undefined, it can mean that, like mine is, it can mean that you don't have consistent will. So you can sometimes promise something but then can't follow through because you're only promising something to prove yourself or to prove that you could do it. If it's colored in, that means you are able to make promises. Generally, you're able to make promises in the world, and then you can follow through with that because you have the willpower to do it. The center in the middle, this triangle, the square, is the sacral center. Now the sacral center is very important in human design because it is responsible for workforce energy, life force energy, as well as sexual energy. And so if this is undefined or not colored in or opened, immediately you will not be a generator type. If it's colored in, you will immediately be a generator type or manifesting generator type. So this part of the body graph actually defines your aura and your type. And so if you have it undefined or not colored in, it means that you are not here on this earth to be a workaholic or to keep working and to have that, work on a schedule of 8 hours and then still feel like you have energy after that. So you have to find your own way of work. But it could also mean that you are here on this earth to be doing other things rather than just work and produce in the world. But if you have that colored in, you're definitely here in the world to work, to be a workforce and to give off joy and life force energy into the world. Plus you have a more consistent energy and sex drive and the way that you approach sexuality, as opposed to if you have it opened or undefined. The center on the right is the emotional solar plexus center, and that is responsible for emotions and feelings. And if you have this undefined or open, it means that you are more susceptible to the feelings and the people in your environment. And so when you're alone, you may not have a lot of feelings, but when you're with other people, you're just more empathetic and you can take in other people's feelings easier. If you have it defined or colored in, it will mean that you always have this consistent flow of emotions, like the waves of the ocean, and they come and they go. The center on the left, that is the spleen center, and that is responsible for immunity and survival. And if you have that opened or not colored in, it can mean that your immunity may let things into your life or hold on to things in your life that are not necessarily good for you, because that intuition for survival is not consistent. You may get different types of intuition. Maybe it's from dreams, maybe it's from words, maybe it's from pictures. So your intuition is not always consistent. If you have it colored in or defined, you tend to have more consistent use of your intuition, and you tend to let things go when they're no longer good for you, because it's healthy and it helps you to survive. The last center at the bottom is the root center, and that is responsible for adrenaline, and it's a pressure to do things. So if you have that undefined or colored or open, it can mean that you don't have a consistent source of access to your adrenaline. So you may turn to things like chocolate or extreme sports or sweet foods to get that adrenaline pumping within you. And you may feel a lot of pressure to do something really quickly in order to finish it. Whereas if you have it colored in or defined, then you have a consistent access to adrenaline, and you tend to have a more, you're not necessarily in a rush to get things finished. If you have an hour to do your work, you'll probably finish your work at the end at exactly that hour, or maybe a few minutes before. But sometimes I see that when people have this opened, they have an hour to do their work, they want to finish it within the first 5 minutes because there's this pressure coming into them to get things done. Okay, so that is basically the different centers. Now we have these numbers inside the centers, and why are some numbers colored in and some are not? These are 64 numbers in accordance with the I Ching 64 hexagrams, the 64 codons in your genetic code, and the 64 sectors of the zodiac wheel, the natal chart zodiac wheel. So if you look at we'll just go with the personality column. You see in the personality column, we have these different symbols, and these are the planets. So we've got the sun, but in human design they also use Earth. So this is the symbol for the Earth, and the sun and Earth are always opposite to each other. Meaning that when you look at the sun, my sun number is 23. Okay, and if we go back to the human design mandala, we can see that number 23 is down here, and it is in correspondence with the I Ching hexagram 23, the genetic codon number 23, as well as the zodiac sign of Taurus. Now I'm not sure which degree that is, but I think it's probably around 18 to 24 degrees if we divide the 30 degrees of each zodiac into 6 or 7 parts. Then this would be around 19 to 24 degrees of Taurus, and which in astrology my sun sign is in Taurus at 19 degrees. So that would correspond with the genetic code number 23, as well as the I Ching hexagram number 23. So therefore the sun is in 23, and so, but it's at line 1, then becomes part of my profile number 1. Okay, so if we go back to your profile numbers are actually coming from the first 2 personality and the first 2 design planets. You see how my personality is 23 line 1, and then the Earth is 43 line 1. So in my design, it's 49 line 3, 4 line 3 in the Earth. So that becomes my profile of 1, 3. So therefore, when we look at the body graph, you can see that number 23, this is called a gate in human design. So gate number 23 is in the throat center, and that is my sun. And so therefore it has to be colored in because I'm a Taurus, and therefore my sun is a 23, so it has to be colored in. the Earth is at 43. And so if we go and look at human design mandala again, number 43 is here. It's in the sign of Scorpio. Probably around, I'm guessing 19 to 24 degrees Scorpio. And its correspondence with the I Ching hexagram 43 and the genetic codon 43. And that is directly opposite 23. So it's this axis of oppositions, Earth and Sun. And so therefore 43 is colored in the Ajna center there. And because 43 is in the Ajna, gate 43 is in the Ajna, and gate 23 is in the throat, and there is a channel. In human design, this is called a channel. The channel connects this together, and so therefore it's going to be colored in. Okay, so you can see how some of the channels in my body graph are not fully colored. That is because I don't have the other gate activated. So, for example, we can look at 16. It's in the throat center, it's colored in, it's number 16. And that is my Mercury, okay? And so I have a Mercury in Gemini. So if you look at the mandala, you'll see that number 16 is the sign of Gemini. And the 48, and therefore it's only halfway colored in because it doesn't connect to gate 48 in the spleen. So if we go and look at gate 48, gate 48 is a Libra gate. And so I don't have Libra in my design or any of my design, so therefore it's not going to be colored in. So therefore this is a hanging gate, meaning that the gate is not complete, so it's a hanging gate. So therefore that channel is not an activated channel then. It's not one of the main activated channels because it's not a whole channel. Alright guys, I hope it's making sense so far. And now, why is it that some channels are being colored in black and why are some in red? So if it is part of your personality, it is going to be colored in black. And if it's part of your design, it's going to be colored in red. And the difference is that, remember when I talked about the neutrinos and how the neutrinos travels probably through your mother and into you when you were in the womb? The design, part of human design was calculated 3 months before your actual birth. And therefore it is a more unconscious part of you, but it's more of a genetic unconscious inherited part of you. The personality part of you is what is being mapped out the moment that you were born. So it's going to be a more conscious part of you and who you know yourself to be. But a lot of the people around you will also know yourself to be your design, but you may not realize that you're operating on the design part of it. So this is really interesting because I'm a Taurus, I'm born in May, and so 3 months before my birthday would be February, which would be in the season of Aquarius. So if you look at my design, the sun is at 49, okay? Gate 49, and that is over there in the emotional solar plexus center. And if we go back to the mandala, 49 is in correspondence with the sign of Aquarius. The Earth would be Leo because it would be the opposite of Aquarius. And so this becomes part of my incarnation cross. 23, 43, 49, 4. Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, Leo. That becomes part of my right angle cross of explanation. See how they combine this together in human design? That's very interesting. So yes guys, so basically each gate has their own interpretation as well. So I think it would be useful to look into each gate and see what that actually means. Now there are a couple more things in human design that I'm not yet sure and I haven't studied deeply, which are these arrows that points left and right. So I briefly read that and it kind of shows, it's supposed to show your mental process and how your brain works. But if I do look more into that, then I'll let you guys know what exactly that's all about. When we look more deeply into each of the gates, we can see that they have different explanations for it. And that each gate is also in correspondence with a particular part of your body, the different glands. For example, we can study gate 23 right here, and as we all know, gate 23 is in correspondence with the I Ching hexagram 23 and the genetic codon 23. as well as with the thyroid and the parathyroid, because that's where it would be located. And so there's this in human design, this gate is actually called the gate of assimilation. It's basically a gate that is responsible for communication. The main goal of this gate is to split things apart, so to be able to understand that things that are much more complex and hard to understand in the world, if you can split them apart and you can build them up again, you can make it simple and easier to be understood by the world and by yourself. That's basically the main idea of this gate. And so there are different sources out there which explains what each of the gates mean and each of the channels mean in human design. So I think that would be really interesting to look into. Yeah guys, so I think that that's all I'm going to be talking about today. I think that's already kind of a lot of information. Before we finish off, I just want to tell you what I think about human design as someone who is an astrologer and has been studying astrology for 10 years. I think that human design is one of the most, shall I say, complex, personalized, metaphysical systems out there, alongside astrology. So you know how there's other systems out there like the Enneagram, or a personality typology system like the MBTI, or numerology. You know, I think that of course they all overlap, but with regards to each of the systems, I think that human design has the depth and the complexity that is, for the first time in my life, I've seen comparable to astrology. So I definitely really love it, because I think that human beings are complex, and certain more generalized typology systems or metaphysical systems out there doesn't really quite describe the complexity of human beings, and that is why I like human design. But human design and astrology also has its differences, and I think that human design, from what I've studied so far, is actually really useful for knowing your mission in life, your career. It really gives you a deeper insight into how to proceed with your working environment so that it best suits you, and how to work with your energy levels. But what I find astrology can do much deeper than human design is with regards to relationships, and how astrology has very intelligently come up with, produces charts like synastry and composite charts alongside the natal chart, that I think it has a depth when it comes to interpreting the human psyche, which human beings use a lot of their psyche in relationships, and so astrology can better do that. Astrology can tell you things like traumas and childhood traumas and the way that you grew up and how the makeup of your psyche, and therefore it can help you to interpret better your love life and your relationships with other people. As well as I really feel like the purpose of human design in general is that it has a more collective mission surrounding it. It was created in a time when there's a new shift in the collective awareness and consciousness, and we are sort of emerging into a new type of species of human beings, or a new way of having to live in adaptation with the changing times, the emerging times right now in the world. Whereas astrology is definitely can help you to gain a deeper insight into you as an individual being on a more personal level. And if you guys feel like you want me to talk about the different human design types or anything else in the human design body graph, then I can look into that further for you guys and I can talk to you about it. But like I said, I'm no expert on human design. I've only been studying it for about 2 years only. Started knowing about this in 2018 because a colleague of mine introduced it to me. So shout out to Magda if you're watching this. Thank you very much for introducing human design to me. I really got into it. Yeah. Guys, what does your body graph look like? What's your type? What's your authority? You know, what's your experience so far that you have with your human design body graph? Comment below and share with the rest of us. Let's have a little bit of a discussion going down there, shall we? And yes, that's it for today, guys. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. I'm mainly an astrologer. I do birth chart and synastry readings. All the information is on my website. So I'll see you later, Uranian beings. Bye!